Advanced Principles Podcast, or app, was created to be an outlet for like-minded individuals to share in the broader conversations on leadership, retail market updates, and incredible personal success stories. On app, you will hear a collection of stories from the titans of the retail industry, as well as thought and practice leaders covering the spectrum of the economy. Please click the subscribe button and look for the newest episodes to be released.
These are some people that can cast a pretty big pen on your ultimate future.
Look, man, this is an opportunity for me to change my family's life forever.
Now, as you're taking on the point and you're successful within the group, you're expanding the Subaru brand in an area that was unfamiliar with it largely. Now those wheels had to start spinning about becoming your own dealer, had to start to get into play when you start to think about it. And when did you and your wife sit down and really start talking about the next level and forming the vision of Mike Terry Auto Group?
Okay, so initially, after being the general manager at the franchise store for 1 year, it was in the plans. After my first year, I would go to dealer school, NADA school, and get a full understanding of what I've been doing for the last year. So I went off to NADA school and found out what it is that I was born to do, because when you can go every day and not feel like you're working and can stay there all day long, and I made some sacrifices absolutely with the family, but my wife and kids and all have all been on board and very, very supportive. So, I've missed some important events, and because I've always put that first to accomplish our dream, which some say good, some say bad. Everybody has their own opinion on that, but I made it through that process. But along the way, there's different avenues and different things that I needed to attend to make myself relevant. And of course, the dealer asked me before, had I heard of NAMAD? And I'm like, no, what's that? And then he told me what that was. And he said, you just need to be a member so you can kind of get a feel for what the candidate space looked like, and feel like from the standpoint of being a minority, right? I'm like, okay, no problem. I got involved in the in NAMAD, and as I started getting more and more knowledge, I'm having conversations in my 20 groups and with different people, the things that they struggle with sometimes was not as tough for me to understand and fix.
Okay.
So, it's at that point, it's like, well, maybe I can be the dealer, and then from once you put that in your head and you see what you're doing, of course, you have to have the financial resources to make that happen. Of course, that's one of the biggest hurdles,
Mm-hmm.
And then have that conversation with my wife and family, and they're like, you're working all day, every day anyway. And the dealer is supportive of it. He's supportive of it all the way. And that was one of the conversations we had, changing and breaking the cycle of the traditional upbringing of a minority. Mm-hmm. in the space that I was brought up in. We didn't grow up like in poverty or anything, but we lived just like the normal, pretty much check to check. That's kind of the thing, just like it is. And
majority of Americans, absolutely.
Yeah. And so once I start having those conversations, having those contacts, and the manufacturers were super excited, because when you go to NAMAD on that Friday, you visit with up to 5 different OEMs. And they kind of get a feel for you, kind of tell you what they're expecting and looking for, and you kind of tell them who you are and what you're looking for, and they line up. You kind of go to work from there. And I lined up pretty good with General Motors, and we connected, and we started the process. Of course, I had to get approved to be a dealer in the region first. And then I had to get approved to be a dealer across the nation,
Okay.
to sell the General Motor products.
Okay. That had to be pretty nervy first conversations. I mean, that's like, the nerves of a first date times a million. From these are some people that can cast a pretty big pen on your ultimate future. Obviously, you won them over. Obviously, they became enamored with you, and but the excitement level really had to start to take hold once it started to set in that I'm actually doing this. I'm signing my name on applications. I'm having interviews. I'm putting things together to get my name on a building and saddle up with an OEM and really launch off on this. What I mean, all through that, what were those feelings internally like?
Man, it was different, to say the least. I stayed up, countless nights making sure that I had everything that was required by the manufacturer or that they needed. And but I still did my job during the day. I didn't do my personal business as far as moving forward with the franchise while at work for my dealer that I was working for. I had their respect, never used their equipment or anything of that nature to get my own deal. But it was really fun. It was I guess I wouldn't say it was stressful. I can say that it was a lot on my brain. My brain stayed tired from it, but it was so fun because whenever I had these meetings and these conversations, like the questions that they asked me, it's not like I had to study for a test, if that makes sense. It's just like,
yeah, absolutely.
They asked a question, I got the answer, and I was having fun with that. And when I was getting ready to have my meetings, I would speak with the dealer development manager, and they're like, okay, now you're gonna have this meeting, you need to prepare yourself, make sure and I'm like, man, just bring them on, I've got this, because I'm looking at it like I'm interviewing them. I was having fun with it. It actually was really, really fun.
Yeah, good for you. And I think it probably helps. I mean, your personality is very calm, cool demeanor, which I'm sure it paid you a lot of benefit as a corrections officer, keeping your head in some very volatile situations. And I could imagine that most individuals going through that interview are nervous wrecks, and they start the ums and the ahs and the pauses. They can't recall information, but your demeanor is just just cool. You're just relaxed. It's like, man, I got this. Why get worried if I'm here because I know I got this. All you need to calm down and just let's have a conversation. That had to pay huge dividends.
That is right. But whenever we had the, so I went in for my regional interview, and of course you had a representative from Chevy, one from Cadillac, one from GMC, because they all have their separate representative, my dealer development management, and then the zone manager. So it's like 6 people in the room with me, all of them with, I don't know, 20, 25, some right at 30 years experience in the business, dressed nice, looking good, geared up and ready to go with me, right? And I go in, I think at the time, I had just probably hit 9 years in the business, or about to hit 9 years. I may not, I don't even think I was there yet at the 9-year mark, but I went in, but maybe right there. But I went in, and I'm not looking at it like I have 9 years and they have 30. I'm looking at it like, look, man, this is an opportunity for me to change my family's life forever. And they're my most prized possession. So I'm at the table, and all I asked for is a seat at the table, and I got it. So it's up to me at this point, So I just gave it to them like it was at that point.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, you had that cause, which is, now we've known each other for a little over a year, and I immediately picked on. I mean, this is about your family. This is about building a family legacy and altering their futures, and not just your kids' future, but your grandkids' futures, and probably into generations even beyond that. So I think that along with your calm, cool demeanor and your confidence, very subtle confidence, but that knowing what you're getting up every day and going to work for and fighting for probably has helped you stay motivated and feel like it's not working, because you know why you're getting up. And I do think that a lot of people in life, and a lot of people unfortunately in our industry, wake up without that clear, defined purpose. They're searching for their why. It's only about a paycheck, or it's only about their next car, or it's only about this. Whereas I think every day, just from the little I've gotten to know you, it's this is for my family and my family's family and my family's family. And I think that has been very cool. And I'm sure that has helped propel you to where you are today, especially on the accelerated timelines that it's happened.
Yes, sir. You got that exactly right.
Yep. So you get your first store, and you get awarded it. There had to be a little bit of celebration in the Terry household when you finally got the absolutely because then it's an approval, then it's finding the store, then it's structuring the deal. I mean, this is not just, hey, flip a switch, we really like Mike Terry, here's a store. This is a process. So after you've been through all that, and I'm sure there were highs and lows throughout, I'm sure a lot of people on the outside never saw anything from you though. What was that celebration like in the Terry household when it actually came to fruition? The store was identified, the deal's closed, we're hanging the name on the sign.
Well, the crazy part about it, Ron, is I had so many celebrations day after day after month after month, and we actually celebrated them all. We didn't take anything for granted. I got the approval for. I went to my regional interview, of course, with General Motors, and I drove to Dallas from Tyler. Before I made it to Tyler, they called me and told me I was approved over the phone that quick. So, within an hour and a half, I was approved. And that was very exciting. We celebrate that. We have good conversations of what this could lead to, and everybody stay the course, and we all have a role to play, and it's so fun. And then they set up my national meeting like 2 weeks later. So while we're riding this high, and I'm doing everything that's asked of me at work, and getting the praise from the dealer for being successful at work, that's a high we're on. So we're just riding all this excitement, and we're having a good time. And then I go to my national interview, and it's like 4 people in the room, but there's monitors, TV monitors, 60-inch monitors, 52 inches all over the room. I want to say it was like 4 or 6 of them, with all your regional people and your national people from Detroit all on all these monitors. Plus the people in the room with me, right? And the people in the room, they're like, we're here for your support. I'm like, okay. So, we start and we go into all the questions. And at this point, I'm approved as they wanted the answers to some important questions before they could commit to. It's a big deal to commit to a dealer agreement. So I understand. And we went through all these questions, and if this monitor is hitting me, I'll answer this question, this one, and I'm back and forth, just giving it to them like I know it, and they're not asking me anything I don't know. If you're a general manager, you know these things. You just have to process them, think about them, and stay in tune with them, and you'll be fine. So I went through that part of it, and on my way home from Dallas, they called me again and approved me nationally. So of course I get home, we celebrate that, go to work the next day. I'm celebrated at work. It's just a lot of excitement, back to back to back. And then I went to NAMAD in 2019. And this is an interesting story here. I think you'll like this one here.
Yeah.
So when you go to NAMAD on that Thursday night, they always have celebration night with some entertainment. Like this year, we just went 2 weeks ago, and Lil Jon was there. The week before that, I think Chase sponsored it. So they rent out, they booked the entire club.
Wow.
That's inside the hotel where NAMAD is. And I'm not a club guy, I don't go out. So it's all the people from NAMAD only there, right? So it's a fun time. Everybody there get to celebrate, have a little fun, away from work in the daily grind. And I actually signed my letter of intent to buy my first store while I was in that club on my phone.
Did you really?
Yes.
Wow. How cool.
Yeah, so I signed that on the phone, of course, and then of course when I got back, there's a process. You go through your process, and got the approval. See, and then another thing, you get the approval from the loan, you get the approval for, I mean, there's so many approvals you have to get or it doesn't happen. So one approval after another, we're celebrating every one of them, and then all of a sudden, all right, it's time to go sign. We have a signing date, right? And I had to drive to Waco to sign. And they're like, okay, when you sign now, you understand that we have to have 2 copies and both copies have to have a wet signature. So I'm looking at the first stack and it's about, I don't know, 60 to 80 signatures. And I'm like, okay, I am really about to have to take this in, right? So I signed both sets of papers, and for one reason or another, we ended up in our signing from like 8:30 in the morning to 6:30 that evening.
Wow.
No lunch, no nothing, because every time we got ready to take the lunch, the seller and I was like, man, we could get something to eat for lunch or have some brought in there. Like, well, we're about to the end of where we need to be. We can get it done, then we can just leave. Well, something else comes up and it's like, well, we need to get some lunch. And they're like, well, we're almost there. And then all of a sudden it's 6 o'clock.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was
worn
a
out.
long. You talk about thinking about it all day, processing it all day, signing all day. I got all of that in one day.
Absolutely. Unbelievable. Yeah, you had to be exhausted at the end of that day.
Yeah. And then I had to drive from Waco to Tyler. So I had a long drive to sit in. I just did that. Right.
Yeah.
And then go home, of course, and celebrate. But I can only celebrate a short time with the family because at that point, every dime that I've ever made was just spent, and I didn't have any money, and you're on the hook for millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
So I had to get up the next morning and go start the journey of getting all that money back.
Wow, good for you. And the first store was in Mejia, Texas.
Yeah.
And immediately started to feel the effects of the turnaround. And what month did you actually close on the store?
I closed October the 22nd, 2019.
Okay. So you get in there, you start making your name known, you start building the team, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. And not too far off in the future, 5 or 6 months from then, this thing called COVID happens and nobody knows what's going to happen. I mean, that every industry is turned upside down. And I got to imagine you kind of were like, hey, what? I just got here. I mean, I just got here. We're just getting things going. Why does this have to happen now? What was that all like?
Well, first things first, coming from Subaru, they don't have the same incentives as, the domestic brands. So it was pretty cut and dry, very high level, but it's all spelled out for you real clean and clear with Subaru. But then when you get into brands that have rebates and different kind of discounts from whatever the reason may be, firefighters, military, they got so many different programs, which is great. But you have to learn that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm in here learning this, and they have some fairly decent payouts on the units when you sell them. But that was all of November, all of December, all of January. So I got the feel for it. We're rocking and rolling. We're having a great time. Then February, I start in on a buy sale on an additional store. And I dig back into the buy sale part, but then like you said, March, the country shuts down. Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed 4 months more or less of top level earnings from the manufacturer as it relates to each vehicle sales and all that good stuff, SFE and EVE. Before that was shut down and things changed. The world shut down and you had to do things completely different, and we didn't know where the world was going, all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, when you're confident in yourself and you can connect with people, I think the biggest thing through that part is just being transparent. As we know things or as we learn things, you just be transparent with them. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people, some things are better off left unsaid. Don't tell them this, it can freak them out. And all. You have to explain it to them, but you also have to give them a vision of what it looks like as a team. If we work together, we can navigate through this and end up on the other side. Yeah. And once you can connect with them and get that point across, it's pretty easy, man. You just work from there.
Yeah. And you said something there I just want to spend a couple minutes on. You said we got to work together as a team. Team is just in everything that you do. I mean, you're a man of the people, for lack of a better description, and you have developed and fostered teams now at multiple locations, as well as your time working for the other dealer. And is that kind of a natural inclination of yours? Just say we are all in this together. I'm no better or no worse than anybody else here. We are all in this together. Is that natural, or was that through professional development from a mentor or coach? Where did that all come from?
Man, it's a natural. It is. It's something that I was naturally born with, and I always tend to connect with another natural leader that is more experienced and more seasoned than I am, and then I'm the student. I'm all ears. I believe if you're learning something every day, then you're growing tremendously. So my ears are always open, and there's a time and a place. You have to know when it's time for you to be there for an ear, shoulder, or mouth. If it's my time to listen, then it's my time to either listen for them, to support them and help them, or my time to listen so I can learn, or
Yeah.
or the other two. So I've been, and another thing that the company that I work for, we were provided, man, psychiatrist, psychiatrist, and career coach.
Okay.
And I mean, we all accepted that, and that way you get to learn who you are as a. He cared for you. He wanted you to know who you are as an individual, not just what you can do for him. It was, you need to be good with you, because if I have the best you, then you're going to always perform well for me.
Yep.
And that's. Go ahead.
That is something that's just phenomenal. I don't think there aren't enough business leaders out there, regardless of our industry, and it's probably worse in our industry than other ones, but there aren't enough people out there that truly believe in that and then take it another step further and offer up those resources. And I think that is exceptional. So, a huge benefit to you, as I'm sure, as obviously I know you realize, but to understand you gotta be the best version of you before you can be the best version for me is huge. That is just super cool. And I'm sure you've carried that forward.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. For sure.
I love hearing different stories on how auto dealers obtain their own stores, especially when they haven't grown up in the space. We wanted to make this interview a 3-part series so you are able to listen and digest the content and advice Mike has being passed down to you. You can find App on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and our website.